This is Don Kedal with another Israel Report, and today I'm in what the international media calls East Jerusalem. This is where most of the Arab population of the old city of Jerusalem live, and this is the Damascus Gate just behind me, and the Temple Mount is just not too far from here. So right here is where we had some of the worst vicious attacks against our policemen, our border policemen. We had 2 border policemen murdered 2 girls right here in the Damascus Gate. This is part of the evil bloodshed that has been happening in the past few months now, all because, well, actually technically within a year, all because Muslim uprising against the Jewish awakening to the Temple Mount. Jews are starting to realize that we have lost our connection to the Temple Mount. We're not going up there like we should. Rabbis are deciding on our behalf that we shouldn't go up on the Temple Mount, and so on and so forth. Politicians are saying that we shouldn't go up there because that's stirring up the status quo. Now let's just talk about the status quo for a minute. What is the status quo? Real simply put, the status quo is saying that we're going to continue Jewish discrimination on the Temple Mount and prevent them from praying on the Temple Mount and allowing only Muslims to pray on the Temple Mount. What's the problem with this? Israel has a peace treaty with Jordan. In 1994, we made a peace treaty. In the peace treaty, it says very clearly that we need to uphold religious rights for Jews, Christians, and Muslims up on the Temple Mount. Okay? That's what it says. So on this very place, this has been broken. The peace treaty has been broken. And not to mention that, just recently now, Israel has made another blundering mistake, diplomatic mistake, by appeasing Jordan again, by releasing the Israeli security guard who shot the attacker in the Israeli embassy. Why did we make a diplomatic decision on that basis, that if they release him to Israel, that we're going to take down the metal detectors and the security cameras that were put up in response to the terrorist attacks up on the Temple Mount? Why did we decide that? Because Jordan said that they wouldn't release him unless we did that. That's a diplomatic mistake. Again, why? Because the Israeli security guard has diplomatic immunity. What that means is that any country in the world that has an embassy anywhere in the world, if under attack, is allowed to defend itself, and it's considered sovereign ground, sovereign to that country. What Jordan did is they broke international law, and they overruled against this sovereign ground, and they overruled against diplomatic immunity, and they put an ultimatum to Israel on this issue, and they made this a point of conflict. So instead of Israel declaring to Jordan that this is a breaking of international law, instead of Israel standing its ground to defend its citizens and to defend our policemen, let's not forget, it's not just about defending the citizens that go up here, but the guys that have to work here 24/7, they have to burn in the sun with all the gear, with all their everything, in order to keep us safe. And then we throw them under the bus by letting Jordan tell us that we have to take down metal detectors and we have to take down security cameras. So the point is, what we've done is we've compromised our security. We have compromised our right to the Temple Mount. And this is an epic repeat of history that happened in 1967. It's happening again. And now, just to throw insult to injury, just outside the Prime Minister's residence here in the center of Jerusalem, you have leftist organizations picketing, and their signs say, "Stop the occupation." I'm sorry, but I think that's a little distasteful that right now, of all times, when we have a Jewish family that was murdered in Samaria, when we have policemen that were murdered on the Temple Mount, when we have border policemen that were murdered in cold blood just behind me, that these guys are saying and declaring, "Stop the occupation." The point is, what you can see is that there's a polar opposites in society here in Israel, but the majority of Israelis, over 77% of Israelis, believe that we have made a foolish mistake by removing the security measures to protect the Temple Mount. And what we're doing is we're basically throwing our citizens under the bus. We're also throwing our law enforcement under the bus, and diplomatic rights as a nation, in Jordan, for example. So all in all, these have been some epic fails, and I just wanted to show you real quick, because what did we get in response to all of these demands from the Muslims? We have had riots here in East Jerusalem. We have riots at the Lion Gate. This is the reality of what's happening here in Jerusalem. While at the same time, there's polar opposites. When you go through the city center, you have peace, you have quiet, you have people drinking coffee, you have people buying challah for Shabbat, and that kind of thing. So it's like these polar opposites. So this is a quick little update of what's happening here in Jerusalem. Thank you for listening. I'm Don Kedah reporting to you from Jerusalem. Shalom.